All right, so first of all, thank everyone for getting onto the call. This is the September Q3 call. So nearly at the end of the year, going into the fourth quarter right now. Sorry, let me just make sure this is set up good. Yeah, that's better. Sorry about that. All right. Hopefully this works from the. Can everyone just send a thumbs up if you can see the SHG notes? Thank you very much. Sorry, internet's really slow today. All right, let's get into it. So, on this call and on calls going forward, just in general, the whole point of it is to kind of share some of my experiences within this space. I'm someone that operates in support exempt accommodation, care leavers, and am working in getting into the full care home for young children space at the moment. So a lot of the things that I'm experiencing, a lot of the things that I'm learning, I'm finding are actually quite helpful to others. So just by having an open conversation, sharing experiences, you just never know when someone could benefit from, the experiences that we're going through at this time. So it's just it's a conversation. Everyone's free to speak. Everyone's free to put in their opinion. I'm here to learn as well as share my own experiences. So that's why I do this. And the whole point of SHG is just a community of people within the same space where, if necessary, we can call upon each other and just share information and help each other along the way. Because ultimately, we're in an industry that is designed to help vulnerable people. And there is no shortage of people that are in need. So I'm not someone that likes to hold their cards to their chest or act as if there's not enough opportunity for everyone, because there really is. And, the more good examples of people getting into the industry and doing things right mean that ultimately more people are helped and we can all create viable businesses out of it. So in this one, I want to cover scaling, Ofsted journey, and also operations that work. So it's only a 45-minute call, and I'll do my best to get through as much as possible. But yeah, at any point, anyone can jump in, share your experiences. I'm happy to hear from anyone. All right, so Scaling in social housing. So I wouldn't say that I'm a large provider. Um, Across the board, we probably have just shy of about 200 bed spaces for varying different needs. Most of those bed spaces are going towards vulnerable adults in the exempt sector. Um, for some people, they might consider that a decent size, but then everything's relative. There's some providers out there that are 1,000 rooms plus. There's some providers out there are 5,000 plus. Um, Nationwide. So everything really is relative. At the moment, our goal is to get to 250 bed spaces by the end of 2026. Um, I want to be quite aggressive in that goal, but there are definitely some things holding us back. So let me see if I can touch on a few of those things. So, growing in social housing, or with a care provision, comes with real operational and financial challenges. So wanting to do it, having the money to do it, and also having the understanding of doing it and what that will mean once we get there, are completely different things. And all growth has got to be sustainable. So, for example, it's not just about acquiring new properties. It's also about making sure we have enough staff to sustain those properties. And I would say at the moment, staffing is probably one of the biggest issues, as I'm sure others, watching this back would know. So in this section, we're going to explore, what's worked for us, what we're anticipating on doing in that growth, and just some things that should be considered. Sorry. Cool. So staffing is key, 100%. One of the things that I found is whether you're employing for high level positions or low level positions, each each position has its own issues that come with it. So, for example, one of the things that we're looking for right now is a registered manager for our children's provision. Registered managers, as you may or may not know, are in very high demand at this time, and the salaries are actually quite high, touching on about 60,000 per annum. It shouldn't necessarily be that high, but it's the demand that's pushing it that high. And what we have is a situation where there's a lot of private money entering the market, people that have heard about the kind of returns that they could get. And so to secure a limited pot of people, they're offering more favorable remuneration packages to entice people in, which basically inflates the market. So in order to find good staff at the high end, not only do you have to match the wage, but you have to be very clear about what you're offering, because it's almost as if they're the prize in this market, and you have to convince them that you are the best option for them. On the lower end, you have the support staff that actually go in on a daily basis and actually deliver the work that is necessary. The problems that we're finding there is there's a lot of people that are perfect for the role, but there's a lot of noise as well. There's a lot of people that are unserious, a lot of people that are just applying but don't really want a job, don't really want to work. And even though we offer what I would say is a decent wage for the level of work, and especially compared to some of the people in our field, again, we have to go through a lot of CVs, go through a lot of interviews just to find that one serious person that is the right fit for us. So staffing is definitely a key point affecting our ability to grow. For our exempt housing adult care provision, we work on a ratio of about 1 to 20, 1 to 25 max when it comes to a caseload. So if the average house, if we said a 5 bedroom house, if we said a 5 bedroom house, and 4 5 bedroom houses is 20 rooms, then one member of their support team should be able to handle 4 houses over a week. So again, with our goal of being to get to 250 rooms by the end of 2026, we can only grow by 20 rooms per one staff. So the longer it takes to find that one staff is the longer it takes us to grow. So for us to grow, we would need around about 5, 6 hires over the next, say, 15 months, and that's the goal that we're gonna have to achieve, and we're gonna have to not only do our own internal work, but we also have to work with recruitment agents to fulfill this goal. So again, yeah, growth decisions are led by operational capacity. Operational capacity mean directly being how much bed spaces can our current caseload of support workers handle, and we are maxed out at the moment. Also, filling vacancies is a balancing act, but we'll speak about that after. Filling vacancies in terms of vacant bed spaces, but when we're talking about filling vacancies in terms of the staff, it's a constant marketing. It's constantly reaching out for referrals. Then it's also how quick are you turning around those applications, and just generally speed. Speed when a decent referral comes in, it's very important to know that you are not going to be the only place that they have applied to. So it's the speed in which we can turn those things around. So I think we just had someone else come in. Hi there, Edward. Not sure if you want to introduce yourself to the group. Feel free to ask any questions anytime. Other than that, we'll just keep going. Yeah, so expanding portfolios, a couple of things that need to be taken into account. Properties, actually filling the bed spaces, and staffing. Those are the three things that come into this, and you almost have to get all three of them right, or you're in a problem. And I've had all of those problems in the past. So challenges we face with maintaining occupancy while scaling. A good space to be in is around about 90% occupancy, but there are times when we see it drop below 80%, which is a very dangerous place to be. And we find that it really comes down to a situation where you spin a lot of plates. When you're focused on getting staff, you might focus less on filling bed spaces. When you've got those two things and you focus on getting the properties, you focus. You naturally open up your own occupancy by getting new properties and watering down everything, because when you get a new property, you're also getting a new cost. You've probably just hired someone so they can handle that new room, but you don't have the people yet. So, for about a month, you'll find that the month it takes to fill the property, you find that you're in a difficult situation. And it's very easy to be in a situation where you don't fill those bed spaces as quick as you would like to, because often you've just spent the time getting the property and getting the staff, but now you haven't had the time to nurture leads in terms of tenant interest. So, there's a holy trinity there of bringing on new properties, bringing on new staff, and bringing on new tenants that constantly needs to be nurtured. And, it can be difficult to do all three all of the time, because ideally you want to always be nurturing, even if you are full, even if we have enough staff, even if our bed spaces are totally full, even if we're not necessarily taking on any properties right now, we should always be having some sort of conversation, because the minute that we need it, you don't want to start the conversation then because it's already too late. Then you've got to start the machine back up again and continue. How do we decide which growth opportunities to pursue without overextending resources? So for us, it's always been, it can be difficult, but I guess at this point of experience now, All of these things need to be led by the overall goal. So I'll say it again, our goal for the end of 2026 is 250 rooms. So then we need to reverse engineer that. To get to 250 rooms, I know I will need an additional, ideally 6 members of the team. So I'm already thinking, all right, how do I hire 6 people over the next year? Then I need to be thinking about where are these properties coming from, because we don't want to be hiring and the properties are not coming on. So then we're speaking to sources, maybe through my Gordon Brooks business. I need to be making sure that we're constantly advertising, letting landlords and investors know that we have the direct route into social housing, and we can offer our landlords 5-year leases, and we've got the track record to show that they are worth the paper that they're written on, and we are one of the preferred providers within the Birmingham City area. And then when it comes to the tenants, consistent outreach. Not only do we use Google and Facebook marketing, but we actually reach out to community organizations like churches, mosques, gurdwaras, doctors, GPs, wherever people in need may be. We're constantly reaching out to them and letting them know that we exist, whether it's going down and helping out, or just putting flyers up on the community notice board. We need to, consistently make sure that we do that. It's easier said than done, but once you start getting a bit of traction and you build a small team and you have the resources to do so, it's just about putting the systems in place to kind of set it and forget it. So scaling successfully requires planning, focus, and operational foresight. Making sure that staffing is sustainable and you've got the systems and support and processes to support it. The smart growth doesn't necessarily mean more bed spaces. It can also mean the value that is actually delivered. Because one thing that we don't want is getting bigger, reaching those goals, and then we find that the quality of the service is actually poor, because that in itself would be a failure. And poor support or inadequate support eventually leads to just overall failure, because we're audited. And if they don't see, they being the council or the regulatory bodies, see that we're not delivering the service that they are giving us the approval to deliver, again, we lose. So it can't be getting bigger, and not delivering the service. The service also has to increase and improve with size. All right, let's move on to the second part. Can I just get a thumbs up just to confirm that everyone can hear okay and this information is valuable? Thank you. All right, so Ofsted journey. I can only speak so much on this because the Ofsted journey I'm only personally going through at the moment. So I've observed, I've supported, but in terms of registering, our own thing, I'm going through it at the moment. And I'm doing 2 applications at the moment, one for a children's home and one for a supported accommodation for young people, care leavers. Care leavers is much more forgiving than the children's home for various different reasons. But I'm finding that it can be very daunting. Personally, for me, yeah, it's a hell of a lot of information that you've got to understand and get right, and can be very bureaucratic. So one of the things that I would like to do is connect with more people going through the process, or people that have gone through the process, really, because I really want to get it right. And I can see there's a few ways that you can be knocked back, but I can also see that if you crush the T's and dot the I's, it doesn't really need to be overwhelming. It doesn't really need to be a problem, or it doesn't need to be something that's not possible. So going on to the talking points. In the early stages, providers often feel ambiguity around requirements. So for me, yeah, it can be unclear sometimes, at least to me, what the requirements are. And even though it's written down, you'll find that when you actually start asking more questions and getting into it, what you think will make sense, what you think will work, often needs a little bit more context. So I found that learning from peers and other experienced operators has been invaluable over this experience. Um, One of the biggest things, and again, we spoke about it in the previous section, was or is finding a strong registered manager. Um, I've got aspirations of growing within the children's space and really doing a great job, but I'm finding that there is a lot of, again, there's a lot of noise within the recruitment space, especially when it comes to recruitment managers. And it seems like people are just going for the biggest price tag in a lot of cases. Um, it's a bit disheartening, to be honest with you, because I would like to think that, most people are in this for the right reasons. But because of the inflated salaries, it seems like, people are just really chasing the money at this time. So, it becomes another job to fight through the noise on this one. Embedding operational quality comes from incremental adoption and best practices, peer learning, and applying guidance constantly. So yeah, operational quality. One of the things that I really endeavour to do is take everything I've learned from the different ventures I've done and from Crossroads Housing into this. I think systemizing things from the start and ensuring that we're working to a very high standard, even if it's just one home with two young people. We're gonna apply the systems and processes that we've developed for over 100 bed spaces to just the two bed spaces that we're looking at putting in place. Two bed spaces for the young residential home, and probably about 4 to 5 spaces for the care leavers, but we'll treat them as if it was 40 and 50. And the goal is to collect the data. We want to make sure that we're very much obviously results and outcome led when it comes to actually supporting the people that we serve, but we also want to look at the data. We want to understand what went well and or what didn't work well and improve it, and we can only improve what we measure. So operational quality for me at this point is looking at the data and moving quick to make the improvements that are necessary. It could be something as simple as maintenance times, looking at when something is logged and looking at how long it takes for it to be resolved, and looking at the communication between those 2 points there and improving those things. Compliance. Obviously, we have to always consider the practical realities, such as staffing, tenant behaviour, and operational constraints when it comes to compliance. But this is a big thing where compliance is something that is fixed and must be adhered to at all times. But in reality, it can be difficult to remain compliant at all times when you don't have the right team or resources around. So that could look like having a service user that totally destroys a property, making the property uncompliant. But there may be other service users that need the facilities. How do you fix this property to make it compliant, or put something in place quick enough that would satisfy compliance if you don't have the resource, you don't have the knowledge, and you don't have the contacts? So it could be that a house becomes uninhabitable because of the behaviors of one person. That would mean that all the other service users must be moved to a suitable accommodation not too far from that one that would meet the same standards as the one that is now destroyed. Not everybody has those capabilities, but it's also being able to put things in place that would mean you are able to satisfy the concerns quite quickly. So, for example, in a situation like that, I've known people to use Airbnbs, but without that knowledge, without being proactive without knowing what your options are, you can easily fall into a point of non-compliance, and if left too long, that can be the service. So it's really important to think outside the box and know what's possible. But things like that I wouldn't know, or would have to learn for the first time if I wasn't speaking so much to different people and really listening to what they're saying and trying to understand what can go wrong, and when it has gone wrong, how have you fixed it. So some of the questions that I've noted for myself are, what are the pitfalls providers encounter during registration inspections, and how have you avoided them? Obviously, we only have a few people on the call today, so we can't get this kind of information right now. But these are the kind of questions that I'm asking people, and sometimes I get the same things a lot around the fit person test, and or making sure the person has the right experience that they're putting up as a manager. Um, but yeah, constantly having the same conversations over again, and eventually, patterns will start revealing themselves. Um, how do you embed operational quality, governance, and safeguarding from day one, even before the inspection? And I guess that for me is creating something that is not just good enough to pass the inspection, but is good enough to last. But with that in mind from day one, as if the inspection is the smallest part of it, it should be that quality anyway. And how do you balance compliance and service delivery with practical realities of staffing, tenant behavior, and operational constraints? The easiest thing I can say is by thinking outside the box, really having a solutions based mindset, knowing that the reality is anything and everything will happen. Sod's law. But this is the job. Figure it out and make it work. The reality is when you have higher occupancy, or you're doing higher levels of care, regulated care, there is enough resource and there is enough money to figure it out. Um, and it's very important to leave enough money in the business to make sure that there's a buffer there. There's a reserve to make sure that when it's necessary, it can be sorted out. So for us, the after journey is not about meeting regulation, but it's also about building a high quality, resilient service that works day to day, and also something that doesn't require me to be too hands on, in sense of not something that I'm designing to fail, not something that requires me problem solving and fixing things all the time. I'm at a stage now where I'd rather be more proactive than reactive. And I feel like most businesses at a lower level are built on quite reactive principles. Something breaks, it's escalated to operations manager or owner. They figure it out. They put something in place. They move on. But with the amount of data that we've got coming in now from all the properties and all the different service users that we have, it's a case of we don't need to wait for it to break anymore. We know what can go wrong, and we're going to put systems and processes in place to make sure it either doesn't, or it's resolved or minimized quite quickly, rather than let the thing happen that we know would probably happen and then react to it. So success in inspections comes from a learning mindset, embedding quality early and putting residents first. So yeah, again, just to summarize, I have not had an inspection at the moment. We're currently awaiting that stage, but getting all the information, learning what other people have experienced on their inspections, and just putting things in place to really mitigate any risk that would be associated with that. Okay, and then final section: operations at work. So operations are the backbone of any successful social housing and care business. Without a reliable system, strong processes, and accountability, it's only so far we can go. And one of the things that I felt that I think we're coming out of now is there's a team of people can hold it all together, but it can be very tiring. It can be very taxing. Poor systems require more people to be the glue that holds everything together. And, that's what we're really trying to avoid going forward. We just want practical ways of operating, a great structure, and consistent results. So one of the things that is a given is maintenance and inspections that require consistent attention. Even with the best practices, tenants may find new issues, and it's constantly chasing our tails if we're not managing it properly. So having a good CRM system that can see when jobs are going in, having a digitized system that allows tenants to add jobs to that maintenance board themselves, rather than having to be a human to human interaction every single time. And I'm not necessarily talking about AI. There are just basic systems that you can use. They can fill out a form, log the problem, a little notification is sent to yourselves, and then you can send it to the right person. And using CRMs, there are many great CRM tools out there. Some more expensive than others. Some more expensive than others. Some more complicated than others. But using some form of CRM, even just using to start with a Google worksheet, is very helpful. Sorry, just give me 1 second, please. Yeah, using a Google worksheet is very helpful, as it at least allows you to get all your information in one place. I find that there's a lot of people that kind of run off multiple different systems and try to piece things together. But part of this whole journey is making a business that is sustainable and easy to understand, easy to control, easy to manage. And I think one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves sometimes is, if we were to get out of the driving seat, could somebody else come in quite easily and take control? And if the answer is no, then, there's some work to do. 100%. So just for transparency, the CRM that we choose to use at the moment is Monday.com. But in the past, we have used Asana as well, which, both are pretty good. It's just when you get to a certain level, you need to customize it a little bit. And we found that Monday.com was good for that. Departmental accountability. So as we grew, we were able to hire people that sit in different seats and can take accountability for different arms and responsibilities of the business. So, for example, you might have somebody for maintenance. That could just be the maintenance guy, but maybe now he's on the book, and maybe now he handles his own workload. So rather than having to organize with different people, you speak to the handyman, and he's more of just reporting to you about what he does. We have someone for support auditing, and all that person does is looks at the support board and make sure that all the support is as it should be, making sure that the support is above board, compliant, and relevant at all times. Real-time improvement comes from failures or concerns raised by staff and tenants. Responding quickly keeps services strong. So this is definitely a big one, and I think for me, this is something that for the fourth quarter of this year, I'm going to be working on quite heavily. So it's very easy sometimes to, especially in a management position, and especially when you have a team, and separate yourself too much from what's going on the ground. And it's very easy to delegate to others, like the task of dealing with those problems. But I find that if you remove yourself too much, sometimes the team may not have your vision or may not have your urgency. because whatever happens, they're still receiving their wages, they're still going to get paid. It's a 9 to 5 to them. They can go home and, you know, fight another day. But for an owner or a managing director or someone quite senior, the same problems that they may overlook may develop into situations that, come back to bite you. I've seen a trend that I've seen recently is service users going to the housing ombudsman for issues big and small. If they don't feel heard, if they're not happy with the responses, they will escalate it very quickly, either to the council or above. And like it's a concerning trend, and you know what, and within our company, we always have the information we need to knock it back and satisfy whatever is asked. But it's something that you don't want to have to go through. And if you don't have your ducks in a row, if that is escalated, you can find yourself in a very difficult situation. And that's something that I would say is often above the people that you put in place to deal with those kind of issues. So again, going back, looking at the systems, looking at the policies and procedures around someone makes a complaint, someone has a maintenance issue, staff themselves raise a concern. How quickly are we able to respond to these issues? So, a few questions that I ask myself these questions just as part of becoming better and becoming operationally more successful. What systems or structures help manage maintenance, inspections, and tenant satisfactions efficiently? So maintenance, we use CRM tools and we encourage staff and resident to log jobs themselves. Then we have someone that specifically looks at the board and log and get things done in a timely manner. Inspections are often from external bodies such as the council or RSLs if you work with RSLs. And often we find that some of the inspections will duplicate the things that were raised already on the maintenance board. So then it's about being careful to know which ones can be compiled if they're a duplicate, collating those things and prioritizing them. Because anything that's raised on an inspection, if not done quick enough, that's the one that will, cause the problem. But then it's a balancing act between what needs to be done and what the tenants would like to be done, and handling that efficiently. And then finally we have tenant satisfaction. Every quarter we send out a form which is a resident satisfaction survey, giving them the ability to let us know in real time how they feel, what we could be doing better, and also what we do well, so that we can measure, track it, and then improve. How do we measure compliance, occupancy, and operational performance and ensure the team is accountable for meeting these standards? Again, our CRM, we have boards that, let us know how many rooms are occupied. We have boards that measure different aspects of our operations. How long does it take for someone to be housed if they are suitable from the moment they reach out to us and express interest in the room? Those things are measured, and ideally, we want to be keeping that within 48 to 72 hours of interest to housing, because we know that they are homeless or facing homelessness and are quite in a position of need for these rooms. So all these little things, and as you grow in your own business, you'll realize actually there's a correlation between this metric and that metric, and if we keep this one higher, then this one is also high. It's about identifying what those metrics are for you, and then finding a way of measuring, capturing, and then having weekly meets or even daily meets on it sometimes to make sure that you're meeting those requirements. How do you identify areas for operational improvement in real time? Implement changes quickly without disrupting service quality. In this season, we are listening to the pain points. So, what do we keep hearing happening? What are the common issues that residents have? What are the common flaws and faults that we're finding in residents? Why does this keep coming up? What are the patterns? What are the negative patterns that we're seeing, and what are the positive ones? And we try to do more of the things that work well and reduce the things that don't. So identifying areas to me is just listening to the team, listening to the residents, and looking for the patterns. And if I'm seeing that something is happening more often than not, it's time to do something about it. So operational excellence, it's not about perfection, but it's about consistency, accountability, and responsiveness. Systems only work if they're used properly, and processes only deliver value if everyone is committed. Small, continuous improvements build a foundation that supports growth and quality service delivery. It's really, it really comes down to the team that we have and us actually using the systems. I find that when things get very busy or our backs against the wall, it's very easy for the discipline to drop. It's very easy for us to revert back to a very manual way of doing things and abandon the systems that we've put in place to stop us from going back to previous places. So, one of my jobs as operation manager now is going to be like really holding people accountable and really pushing people to use the systems that we've agreed are necessary to move forward, or else we're always just going to stay in the old place that we started in, which served us in one season, but to get to the next level, it won't continue to serve us. So in closing, opportunities in social housing, supported living and care are enormous, but success goes to the operators who grow smartly and sustainability, build services that withstand scrutiny, run operations that actually work, and take pride in what they're doing. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for your time today. I hope you've got some value from this. Please feel free to share this video once it goes live. All of these videos are always put onto YouTube. So there's always a link to watch this back. And if you want to book in with me for a one-to-one session, I'm always here to help. I've got years of experience in actually operating care services, as well as property investment side of things. So actually securing the buildings, buying them or leasing them, and then getting them right to deliver the service in. And here to share value. Thanks, everyone. Have a great Sunday.